Now, if we look a little bit more carefully, I'd like you to look at the asterisk that just popped up here. And that asterisk goes right to this footnote. Some of you, all of you, basically in the retreatment situation, you're not excited about retreating paste fillers. Why? Because the paste oftentimes was brick hard. It was impenetrable, and there were, in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, there were no chemicals that were in our armamentarium that could be used, like chloroform is to soften gutta percha, like xylol is to soften, chemically soften gutta percha. We didn't really have that at that time. So essentially, I'm using the asterisk to point to what a lot of dentists, there's a rage, single cone. Why was it all spawned? Minimally invasive preps pretty much negated our ability to get a lot of the armamentarium in there that we used to for obturation. So now dentists just do skinnier shapes, single cone, and they lubricate that cone, and they use a tricalcium silicate type cement to fill the root canal system. I want to point out, it is obvious if you're alive, these two are immiscible in solvents. In fact, as solvents came in for paste, we still don't have the solvent for tricalcium silicate. So everybody that's using that is assuming I have 100% success. I will never have to go back and revise at least my work. If you're an endodontist, it's not you revising your work. You're going to be getting cases that are failing from the community and beyond. So I'm going to come back at another time, I believe this season, because this is so important that the profession begins to wake up at what we're doing with the good news, bad news story on tricalcium silicates. Stay tuned. I'm sure that got you all excited, didn't it? Because you're probably a big tricalcium silicate user. Fine. We'll talk about it. But right now, today, we're going to live on the classic paste. What do we know about paste? Paste were used pretty much in a syringeable or a linsula method of placement. If you used a linsula, there was some shaping, but we don't even want to call it, let's call it instrumentation. There was a little bit of instrumenting to make some space for the paste, but there was really no big effort to get all the tissue out because the magic paste would overcome the deficiencies. All right. So if it was syringed in, it's important to know, if we divide our roots into the classic thirds, coronal, middle, and apical, the paste is going to be most dense. It's going to be most dense closest to the orifice. This is important because you can be working up here and trying to get through and trying to get a little bit deeper. And a lot of times we have a tendency to give up. And sometimes that second visit it's often talked about internationally. The second visit is magic, right? You can't find the canal, second visit, find the canal. Can't get out the broken instrument, second visit, get out the broken instrument. Can't get the paste out, second visit, get the paste out. So determination and desire is a big part of this. But if the clinician kind of looks at those radiographs carefully, they'll notice that there's probably decreasing density as we go into the middle 1/3. And sometimes you'll find very little in the apical third or just a little bit spotty. All right. Obviously, some clinicians were pretty thorough. I'll show a case or two like that. And they actually instrumented to length and they got their paste to length. And it's pretty dense all the way through. Those are pretty formidable. So that's a little bit about how you should be looking at a paste case. If I can just get another millimeter, that's the conversation that's playing between the ears, I bet I can get to length. If you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you're right. All right. So I'm going to go through these. I'm not going to read this list back to you because we're going to look at every single one of these individually. But these are the tools that Ruddle has used and incorporated for paste removal. I would like to invite everybody to go to my continuum on non-surgical retreatment, and we talk about the removal of fillers, and that would be gutta percha, silver points, carrier-based obturators, and paste removal. So this will be a little, glimpse at the much bigger picture that we get to in a full continuum. All right. So if you know about the density thing and the decreasing density thing, then you might realize in the straightaway portions, you can use NiTi files. So we can use NiTi files where it's appropriate. As an example, we used to use rotary instruments before the ProTaper Universal dedicated instruments for retreatment were out. They came out, I think, in 2005, 2006. It doesn't matter, just about right in there. And so before that, we had rotary files. And if we had a rotary file, we might actually take a transmetal burr on like a profile. That's one of the popular ones back in the 90s. We had profile 04s, profile 06, GTs. You could take a transmetal burr and literally just spinning, just hit the end of the file and you'll booger it, okay? You'll put a little asymmetry in it. It's a non-cutting tip, but we want to make it active. So to get an active tip, we could just hit it a little bit, and that would now make it irregular, and it would start to bite and grind into these tough pastes. But we intentionally made the one that works dominantly in the coronal 1/3. So this is basically coronal 1/3. This would be basically middle 1/3. And then we had one that could go deeper, and it was basically apical 1/3. It's not always that neat, but basically crown down, get the paste out of the coronal 1/3 before you try to get paste out of the middle 1/3. I want to mention about paste. I didn't mention it, so I should stop. When you're talking to your patients about paste removal on a failing endodontic case, especially if they've had a flare-up that brought them into you, it might be calmed down now, but if there's been a history of a flare-up, recognize there's more post-operative problems in paste removal. Recognize that a lot of that paste that was put against vital inflamed tissue caused internal resorptive defects that can be noted years later. Get in there and get some blood coming, okay? So flare-ups should be communicated. They can be managed, but people don't like to know. They like a treatment plan for no surprises. And so be aware of resorptions. So if you can get it out of the coronal 1/3, there's less likely that you'll be pushing paste through the foramen, and that'll tend to reduce the incident of post-operative problems.